Welcome to It Girl Era. We are back.
Hi, everyone.
And last week, if you didn't listen, was my episode sharing my story. So this week, we're going to get into beautiful Amanda and her story and how she got to where she is today.
Yes.
So, Amanda, how are you feeling?
Okay. Well, I'm feeling pretty good. I've already kind of shared this story last year and it was hard. We had some tears, but we're going to get through it without tears.
And we're in a completely different place now, too.
We are. We're in a way different place. So
way better headspace. So
let's do this.
Let's do this. Take us back to the beginning.
All right. So, hi guys. I'm Amanda. Well,
also a co-host on this podcast.
Yes. Also Whitney's bestie. I kind of started off with a pretty Midwest traditional life, I would say. I got married really young. I was like 22. Where we're from, that's super common.
Very common.
And, you know, was living the all-American white picket fence dream. I'm going to say that. You know, I got married. I had two beautiful little girls that I adored and loved. And being a mom was so amazing. I was married to a farmer. He was a farmer.
He is a farmer.
He is a farmer, yes. And we were married for 14 years. So a long time.
Yeah, that is a long time.
We're not going to do the math on my age, but yeah. So
she's 30 for anyone wondering.
Yeah. And we had some good years in the beginning. I feel like, you know, we were happy and there were good times. I was just really fucking young. Like I didn't even know who I was. I didn't even know like what I wanted. I was just kind of living in this, I call the matrix. Just doing life and not really feeling like, is this what I want? You know, it's like, okay, I wake up every day, I do this. It's just like the same thing. And this is what everyone else is doing. So this is the right thing to do. But it always felt a little wrong. And I just felt, started to become lonely in my marriage. And he did work a lot. He worked really hard to build a successful company for himself, you know, on the farm. And I also worked, and I was pretty much the main caregiver for the kiddos. And it became unhealthy because we were just becoming roommates and living so separate, and there was just no emotional connection. There was no like support in the sense of, you know, a family unit. And like finances were provided. It wasn't like he was this like bad dude or something, that like he wasn't abusive or anything like that. But and I think that's what made it hard to leave. Yeah. Because
I don't think you need to justify it, you know?
And that's what I'm trying to get at is like, it wasn't like where I'm from, and a lot of people be like, well, why'd you get divorced? Like everyone wants to know like this, you know, he was cheating or he was this.
Beating
like there's
me.
like a hard line why you did it. And for me, there was just like 14 years of shit, all the little things, and like resentment builds up, and you just like wake up one day and you're like, I don't even really know who I am. I feel like I'm not connected to this person. Like what's going on?
Yeah.
And so leaving was hard because I didn't have the support that I wanted from my family and some of my friends. And I had let my life just go on repeat for so long that I felt like I was just like living. It was weird. I felt like I was watching a show and like it was my life, but I was, you know what I mean?
You weren't like the active participant. Like you're just sitting back watching as if it's somebody else.
So I decided to leave, and we had talked about separation and divorce, and I think he would have been fine just staying. I know he would have been fine just staying like how we were. He didn't need that emotional connection. He didn't need that best friend energy that I wanted.
Well, and okay, hold on. Let me stop you there for a second. Like you said, you know, you guys kind of grew apart. Like, what did that look like in your marriage? Like, as far as growing apart?
So we were, you know, sleeping in separate rooms at the end. Had totally different friend groups towards the end, doing activities, you know.
Yeah.
We would still like live together. We were married, but like we were essentially like co-parenting underneath the same house.
When I would say, just knowing, you know, your situation, your lifestyles and your morals and values didn't align anymore.
Yeah. Yep. And so there wasn't like a lot of like toxic fighting or anything that way. It was just more of an emotional side. And I think for a lot of women, they need that emotional void filled. And that is a big reason why a lot of women leave marriages is they're not feeling like they're emotionally being like heard or supported. So again, as an outsider looking in, they're like, well, he provides for you. He's a good man. Like seems like a great guy. Like, why would you leave? Right.
Yeah.
Like, and I was like,
well, and I think providing emotional safety is a critical piece of a healthy relationship. And if you're not getting that, like you said, as women, that's super important. And I mean, like in my opinion, that's more than a justifiable reason to leave. And like at the end of the day, we don't need to justify why we're leaving to anyone, but you know, you have to do what makes you happy.
I agree. And unfortunately, the world we live in now, like, there's so much judgment, right? And at the time, I wasn't a strong enough person to like, just be like, fuck it, I'm doing what I want to do, and I don't care. So it was hard. I left, and I moved out of my beautiful home I built. I had a beautiful life that I built, and moved into this tiny, pretty crappy twin home that was, you know, my kids were kind of embarrassed at first about it, and I felt like I was starting over. I was like, holy shit, like,
because you were starting
I
over.
was like, okay, I just gave up all this for this, and I did it for my happiness and for my kids. And so I ended up starting a business during that time, and finding someone that I thought was my person. So I found a man that,
do we want to give him a name?
We'll call him NY.
Okay.
New York.
Yep.
So I found a guy that I thought was like my best friend, my soulmate, like my everything, you guys. I was smitten. He was smitten, like fireworks, everything. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
And I was so happy. And I was like, this is what the movies are about. This is what people write books about. And we just connected on that emotional level. Like we could just look at each other and know what we were thinking.
So it was kind of like what you were lacking in your marriage.
Absolutely. A whole different kind of love, different type. And he was amazing with my kids. And there was, you know, like there was a lot of future that we were excited for. And I don't know, it became, after some time, bad. The relationship became bad. And
so were there any signs, or like what were the initial signs that you saw, like, okay, shit, this might not be what I thought it was?
Well, what made it probably really hard is kind of going back, the relationship was pretty quiet and secret from the world, because I was going through a divorce.
Yep.
I was going through custody battle with my ex-husband.
Yep.
And in the state I live in, there's like fault divorces. And legally, like, even though we weren't legally divorced, I didn't want any more drama brought into it. So it was really hard, because like you're so excited about this person, but they're a secret, right? And I would say, maybe looking back, the red flags, I mean, it was so good, so perfect, so quick. but I don't even want to say that's a red flag because I think that does exist for
Absolutely.
people.
Yeah.
But I think for me, it was like his family, when they found out about us being together, they didn't love that I was divorced. They didn't love that I had kids. They didn't love that I was like tainted.
They love the idea of him being in like a traditional marriage and relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was probably a red flag. Even though he said it was fine and he was going to like be by my side. And again, some of you guys are listening and you're probably like, what the fuck? Why does it matter like what his family thinks? But like at the end of the day, like it didn't matter until one day it did. And then it changed.
He allowed it to matter.
Yeah. And then living in a small town, coming from a very like traditional Midwest area, like image of this like perfect life is like important to a lot of people. And I was just like not that girl. Like I'm like, yeah, I've been married, I've been divorced, I have kids with somebody else. Like who cares? Like we love each other. Love can get you through everything.
Be real, it's like 2024 now. Obviously this wasn't in 2024, but it's like life is so different. But like we said, like Midwest, some of our values and just how we live hasn't really evolved into life present day.
Yep. And so I'm going through all of this stuff, but I'm feeling like I'm on top of the world because I have love. And when they say love is the strongest, most powerful drug in the world, I truly believe that. I never understood that until this happened to me. I was also going through a business buyout at the time. So I have 2 lawyers for divorce, custody, business buyout. But I was still like, okay, I have him by my side. Like we can do anything. Like, and shady behavior started to happen, phone behavior, things that we talk about on our podcast started to happen. And at this time, like I was kind of just like in denial. Looking back, obviously all the signs were there. But when you're in the moment, you guys, you don't see it. And like, I get that. Like your friends can literally like ask you, like, do you think he's cheating? And you're like, no, like he loves me or whatever. But he would just start flipping his phone over like when we were together, or like the girls could be on his phone playing games and he like changed his password and like he would take it with him everywhere he went. He never did that before. We had such an open, honest relationship, and he started like flaking on things. And I'm like, this is just really weird. Things were getting weird. And it was such a fucking roller coaster because I was in my head because I would like bring it up to him because I was a very secure woman. Like he made me feel like I was the only woman he loved. And then when you question them and you're like, hey, why are you doing this now? Like they make you feel crazy because they're like, well, I'm not doing that, you know?
Yeah.
So I was like, you know, again, like I didn't have at the time like all these friends and support that knew about our relationship.
Right.
So it's like me in my head, and you know, that was all I had at the time. And I remember when I called Whitney.
Yeah.
So Whitney and I were friends. She didn't know about my relationship, and I called her and I just started bawling and confessed and spilled everything to her and let her know that I was not okay. And at that point, my relationship with him was really, really bad, super toxic, emotionally abusive. Like there was no physical abuse, but I would say like the emotional abuse was day to day. I mean,
it was a roller coaster.
Yeah. I mean, there was days that I would call Whitney and she'd be like, you just have to get out of bed, write it on a piece of paper. You're going to get dressed. You're going to brush your teeth. You're going to like get the kids to school.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a shell and I got super skinny, all doing this, you know, with a really small group of friends.
Yeah.
No support from family because they didn't really know about it. I did have support from my sister. But feeling like a fool, like I fucked my whole life up, you know, like, fuck, what did I do? Like I'm gonna like lose everything, you know? And I'm sitting in this shitty house and I'm going through all these lawyers, and all I want is this guy to love me. And he fucked me over, you know? And finding out like he would never confess that he cheated, but he kept pulling away and saying he thought he loved me, and coming from I'm the love of his life and he wouldn't do anything to hurt me and he wants to marry me and all the things, to like, I don't even know if I love you anymore. It was like a 180. It's like one day he woke up and I was like, who is this? Who is this guy? What happened to you? And I became obsessive of, why is he doing this? Like, who is he with?
Who's he talking to?
Who is he talking to? Because it wasn't like he broke up with me and he said, we're done. It was like, I love you. I don't love you. I love you. I don't love you. And like, that is the most fucking toxic thing.
Right. Well, and I feel like he pulled the kids into that to some extent too, which is like so messed up, like playing mind games with everyone. Yeah.
Like he, you know, and that's what is so hard, because when someone like, when there's a clear cut in a relationship, like, okay, I busted them cheating like red-handed, or I don't know, sometimes in my mind, I'm like, then it's like easier to just be like, okay, he's an asshole, I'm mad at him.
Yeah.
But there was so much emotion from him. Like he would come like crying, like, I want to be with you, you're my person. And then the next day, I don't think you're my person. And then, you know, so it's like this roller coaster I was on. And I remember going to the doctor and I just started bawling. She's like, you're really underweight. What's going on? I'm like, just give me something to feel numb. I don't want to feel anything anymore. And I am not this kind of person. Like, I am not a person that's depressed, I thought. I'm not a person that's suicidal. I'm very positive. And I'm like, I remember, this is so hard for me to say, but I talked about it in one of my podcasts, but I was in the bathtub and I remember thinking like, how many pills would I need to take to like fall asleep, like, and not wake up? And like,
so, okay, not to like go into that moment because we're both getting emotional, but so like, was it your kids that kept you going in that moment? Yeah.
And like, I think I was just like so hurt and felt so betrayed by like
the person that you thought you could trust the most. Yeah.
And like so lost in that moment. And the most fucked up thing is like, on social media, my life probably seemed perfect. And inside I was dying, and I had these two little girls that needed me. And so I'm like, no, I can't do that. Like, that's not okay. And I knew I needed to get help. And so, you know, thankfully I had Whitney and some other great friends, and I got into therapy and I worked myself out of that. But
I'm so proud of you for that too. Like, the world needs you here.
Yeah.
And so do your girls.
Yeah. And so it took me a year. I mean, I did not sleep without sleeping pills for a year. I was in a really fucked up place.
Yeah.
And I can see how you can spiral. I can relate. I can empathize with others who spiral on the bad times and they can't crawl out of it because they don't have the support and they don't have the love that they need at the time.
Yeah.
And so I pulled myself out of it. Lots of calls with Whitney, multiple phone calls a day.
Yeah.
Lots of therapy. I had to set hard boundaries with that person that I was with. And I just said, enough is enough. I needed to do it for myself and my kids and for my life. And so
Did you draw the line in the sand with him then?
Finally, after like 10 months of back and forth like that, you guys, it was a long time. I did. we broke up officially, and we drew the line in the sand. Yeah. And discovered that there was probably some cheating going on. I don't have hard evidence, but some girls came forward.
There was definitely signs.
There was definitely some things that had happened during the time we were together. And I think mental illness did play a part maybe a little bit in some of it for him. And that's why Whitney and I are such big advocates for mental health. And if you feel like you're in a bad place, to ask for help.
Yep.
You hear about these, people on social media, celebrities and stuff that are silently struggling.
Yeah, it's so sad.
And everyone's like, we had no idea. And you can be
you
just
have no idea.
It can happen to anyone.
It's assumptions based on, this little snippet that you're seeing on social media. And it's like, when in reality, it's like you have no idea what that person's going through.
Yes.
And that's why we always say, go to therapy.
Yeah. It doesn't matter.
It literally saved both of us.
Saved both of our lives. And so I was so insecure after I got that relationship. Yeah. Going from a secure person to an insecure person, building myself up, I was like in my head, like, and I've never been that kind of girl, but I was like, why doesn't, like, going into the dating, like, I'm okay, I'm going to date again, I'm going to heal, I'm going to get over this. It's like, you're in your head, like, well, why doesn't he like me? And like, why does, right? And that's like icky. No one wants to be that. We don't want to be that. We're not that.
That's not the goal.
So I had to rebuild myself up back to a secure person. And, obviously, like, moving forward in my life, I feel like I'm in such a healthy place. I'm so strong and confident in who I am. And I am now, I remember, I don't know if it was you or one of my other girlfriends saying, someday you're going to thank him. Mm-hmm. You're going to thank him for what he did to you. And I was like, fuck that. I'm never going to thank him. He's such an asshole.
Yeah.
He fucked me over, blah, blah, blah. And now I can sit here and say, I am thankful for him, because I would not be the person I am today. I would not be sitting here right now without what he did to me.
Right.
And
well, you might be, but you'd just be a different version
yes,
of yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
But like I had to go through the trenches. I had to get to my lowest rock bottom and build myself up, because now when I, people reach out to me or I talk to people and they're telling me like they're in their lowest lows and they just don't think it's gonna work out for them, I'm like, no, like
you relate.
I've been
like,
there.
I'm experienced to show. I'm here telling you I've been there too, and I'm good now.
Yes, like you can do anything that you put your mind to,
right?
And it's all a mindset. And like, you might need therapy, you might need antidepressants, you might need sleeping pills to get you through a small
snippet of time.
But that doesn't have to be your forever your forever book.
Right.
We always said it's just a chapter in life. This is just a chapter. So
it's a building block.
Yes. So when you're going through that hard time, it's just a chapter, and like there's going to be an end of it and a new one's going to start. And so it was hard though, because I lived in a small town. I would run into him. My kids would ask about him, and there was so many ties, emotional ties for him. And then I said, I'm going to start my life over again. I'm going to push the reset button. But here's the great thing. You all can push the reset button.
That's true.
Anytime you want. And no judgment from us. No. And so I pushed it, and I've been so happy.
Thriving since.
Yeah, so happy.
I'm so proud of you.
I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be alive. I'm grateful for all the people that I love and that love me. I'm grateful for opportunities. Been wild ride the last year and a half, dating, making new friendships and connections and relationships, and really knowing my boundaries and what I want. And Whitney had said this in her episode. That is why we get some razz on social media.
We get a lot of hate
from men mostly. Why are you guys so hard on men? Like, why do you have such high expectations? It's like
because of what we've been through.
And what we know we deserve. And men deserve a good relationship too. Men deserve a good woman. just like women deserve it. And so
Yeah.
everyone should deserve to be treated well.
Well, and it's not even that we're razzing. It's like these are our expectations and our
Yes.
standards. It's like we're not hating.
No.
We're just saying like want the best for yourself because everybody deserves the best.
Yep. And I used to be that girl that would be like, well, why can't she just leave that guy?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why she keeps going back to that guy. Like, you know, we all have that friend, or we've all had that friend that like kept going back to that toxic boyfriend or wouldn't leave her marriage. And I'd be like, well, why doesn't she just leave? Well, it's easier said than done. And when you're in it,
it's hard to see.
It's hard to see it, and it's hard to take the next step. And when you have kids, it makes it even harder.
Well, and a lot of times in toxic relationships, you don't have the confidence. So
you get broke down.
Digging deep down and finding that can be difficult.
Yeah, it is.
But I'm glad you're here.
We're here.
Glad you're happy.
I know.
Probably like the happiest I feel like I've ever seen you.
Yes, I'm so happy. And every man that I have either dated or gone on dates or, you know, come across, like, I take something from that.
Yeah.
And good or bad, I'm like, okay, like, this is a good quality I want. This, you know, this is the beautiful thing about hitting the reset when you're in your late 30s. Some people might think like, oh, that's, you know, an ick, right? Like, who wants, but I know who I am now.
Right.
Like, I know what Amanda needs and wants.
Yeah.
And the guy that I need and want is different than what I needed and want when I was 22.
That's so true. Well, and it's hard to know even who you are at 22, let alone who you want to be with for the rest of your life.
Absolutely. And there are some people out there that are so blessed to find their person at 22, 25 and be with them for 40 years. And that is so amazing. You know,
we love that for them.
Yeah, they're growing together. They're building themselves up together as one unit. But for me and for you, Whitney, like, now we get to, and hopefully some of you listeners out there that are hitting the reset button, we all get to like kind of just, you know, I don't know if you want to say like candy pick or whatever, but like cherry pick the type of man that we want to be with and we deserve. So that's kind of where I'm at, and life is good now.
Yay.
New
Proud
adventures.
of you for knowing your worth and just pulling yourself out of all that. And you're so inspiring. I know you've inspired so many people, and I love you so much.
I love you. Thanks,
Well,
guys.
thanks so much for listening. We will see you next week.
Yeah. Follow us on Spotify, Apple,
and YouTube.
And YouTube now. Bye, guys. Love ya.
Bye.